Now, the Labour representative for the PPE mock general election debate on the 12th of May is Felix Ling. Felix is the ex-social media and member of board for Warwick Labour and, of course, the ex-president of the Warwick Debating Society. Felix, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Again, you're a regular fixture on Raw. First things first, with this election, how surprised were you that Theresa May called it, and has she called it to decimate your party?
Well, I mean, I found out on the train that I wasn't exactly expecting it was the first thing I woke up to in the morning, but it's not completely unexpected because Theresa May promised that it wouldn't happen. So, naturally I expected that she might go back on it. But no, I think definitely she is trying to do it for some party's political gain. The exact motives are mixed. She wants to probably, as she came out on a statement, she basically doesn't like opposition. She's being quite authoritarian and say, bloody opposition getting in our way, like in a democracy. But no, I think actually she's been quite complacent, as we've seen. The Tory lead, is there, apparently. But it's certainly been narrowing significantly over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I think she should be complacent at all.
In the run-up to this election, quite a lot of people have been saying the media has been quite anti-Labour. The recent council by-election results, does that suggest that the voters are quite anti-Labour as well?
Well, it was a mixed bag, wasn't it? There were some losses. It's undeniable that the media have been overwhelmingly quite anti-Labour. 80% of the newspaper market is controlled by 5 men who all back the Tories and don't really report anything good that Labour says. So it is quite hard to get the message out there. But I think the message is slowly filtering out, certainly all other things, and certainly as we're now in the proper campaign, we get far more impartial coverage, so that I think the message will get out far better.
Theresa May's slogan for this election, quite annoyingly, has been strong and stable leadership. It's been repeated all the time. Is there a reason that she's doing that to expose Corbyn's lack of leadership in leading his own party, let alone the country?
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily for him. I think it's definitely for her. They are basically playing this as a Theresa May election. She doesn't even say vote for the Conservatives or give the Conservatives a mandate. She says, give me a mandate, vote for me. It's very much she's just trying to play her because they feel her strongest suit. Because if people remember that they're voting for, Jeremy Hunt to destroy the NHS, Justin Green to impose £3 billion worth of education cuts, Boris Johnson to somehow, insult half the world and somehow de-escalate the conflicts in North Korea, if they realise that is the actual coalition of chaos that they'd be voting for, they wouldn't. So they're trying to distract from that, basically. Jeremy Corbyn has actually come out and run a far better campaign in terms of actually meeting people, as Theresa May at the moment just seems to go around empty warehouses where no one's allowed to ask any questions and just speak to Tory activists.
On the kind of policies that Labour have announced, we've seen the free school meals policy, we've seen also, policies on bank holidays and things like that. What are you most looking forward to kind of campaigning on as a member of Labour?
I mean, I'm not just for one policy in particular. Like it's a whole philosophy, really. I mean, I don't go, £10 minimum wage. Obviously, the full manifesto is yet to be released, but genuinely, what I want to campaign on is building a post-Brexit society which is fair, which is equal, where the resources of the community are used for the good of the community, where we can have free, accessible education, where we can undo the bedroom tax, ensure that we don't live in food bank Britain, ensure employment security, all manner of things. Like it's not just one policy.
Quite a lot of the Greens and Lib Dems in this election are expecting a lot of Labour votes to kind of bleed to them because of their position on the Brexit negotiations. Now, Labour have been criticised for not holding a strong enough position for Remain. The Lib Dems and Greens, arguably they can. They've taken a very strong position in saying they will fight to keep us in the EU by having a second referendum and whatnot. Is Labour's policy on Brexit a disaster?
No. Actually, it's a clear position, but it is nuanced because actually these are very complex negotiations. So actually having a really simple position like the Tories might sell, but it's not good for the country. So Labour's position is we accept the result, but we want to ensure a Brexit where we don't just go around insulting Europe and say, they're interfering in our elections. We say we ensure the rights of EU nationals here because of all the great work they do. We put the economy first. So we're not, if the economy needs immigration, then we accept immigration. If it doesn't, we don't. We always ensure that the welfare of the country is put first. It's a very different set of guiding principles, but ultimately we do accept Brexit. Earlier in your question, I don't actually, trusting polls, actually you could actually see a Green vote slipping back to Labour and the Lib Dem vote not really breaking through. I mean, as I say, local elections are not necessarily the best indicator, but the Lib Dems really didn't break through, and indeed they lost, some seats, especially where they were expected to do well in the southwest and so on. So we're not really seeing that. And really, what this election is about, people want to frame it as, you vote on Brexit or you vote on domestic issues. It's not. It's about what kind of post-Brexit Britain do you want to live in? The structure do you want to be? What the guiding principles do you want it for the many, not the few? And that's what it's about.
Now, in this series of interviews, I've accused Theresa May of being robotic to the Conservative candidate. I've accused the Greens of kind of a one-woman party, Caroline Lucas with Jonathan Bartley being irrelevant. Tim Farron, there was a lot of controversy about him not saying that kind of debunking that gay marriage was a sin. But in terms of Diane Abbott, She's had arguably one of the most disastrous aspects of this campaign. She forgot her figures on LBC and she dug a hole. After the locals as well, there was an incident where she said that Labour had lost 50 seats and then kind of said that she knew Labour had already lost 100 seats by this point. Now, is Diane Abbott fit to be Home Secretary?
She's fit to be Home Secretary because your ability to perform in radio stations is not your ability to actually run the country. You need to think not about you. You need to think not about your ideas of competence, but about the competence of your ideas. So ultimately, £300 million hire 10,000 more police officers when violent crime is going up is a good policy. We compare it to Theresa May, who did a terrible job for 6 years, who once said, at a conference, "Oh, I'm not making this up," but asylum seeker, was allowed to say because of his cat or something, "I'm not making this up," and she was making it up. And yet she's never held to the same standard. So it's not about your ability to speak well, it's about your ability to govern well. And that's what Labour has. It has a competence of its ideas, and that's what matters. If you had terrible policy, you'd want very incompetent people doing it, because you wouldn't want it to be implemented well. I don't want the bedroom tax to be implemented really effectively. I don't want it implemented at all. So ultimately, it's about what your policy is.
Okay, Felix, what are your predictions for this election in terms of kind of the main five parties?
I mean, it's really open at the moment because being a snap election, the actual movement in the following weeks will really matter more than it usually does. And so I believe that if we hold it steady, the Labour Party can break through, can actually get its message out there. I mean, we're hearing that this air pollution report is coming out. We're hearing that several Tory MPs could be indicted for possible electoral fraud and so on in the middle of the campaign. So we have no idea how that's going to go, how different Brexit issues are going to come up. So it really is actually far more open than you think. And of course, we don't actually know because obviously the polls have been wrong before, but also after 2015 they changed many of their methodologies. So we don't know how accurate they are, whether they're underrepresenting, overrepresenting. So we'll only actually find out on 8th of June.
Labour win though?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
Felix, of course, this debate's happening with the PPE Society. What are you most looking forward to about the debate? Because you love debating. You're ex-president of the Debating Society.
Yeah, no, I am. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting students involved. I mean, I saw at the weekend 90% of students are now registered. We'll talk about student issues, and we'll talk about how actually your vote, especially in Coventry South and Leamington, if you live in either, can they really make a difference because they're both fairly marginal. And so you can actually vote on issues you want to vote for. And in course, in both the constituencies, if you want to create a better society for the many, not the few, vote Labour. But that's what I want to talk about. I don't want to actually engage with the other parties because I do see eye to eye on a few issues with maybe the Lib Dems and the Greens, for example. But overall, it's a different philosophy. And ultimately, on the 8th of June, 9th of June, it's going to be a Labour government or a Conservative government. Those are the choices, really. And that it would be good to engage students in that decision.
Felix, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.